Hey there, Adrienne Elise here. Welcome to the SuperNova Astrology update for April 10th through 17th, 2023. Well, happy Easter. Very powerful how the astrological configurations at this time, very much following the Christ mythology for this holiday. Last week we had Mercury coming up to a conjunction with uh, Jupiter, Chiron, and then Jupiter. And now we have the sun. The sun has just passed over Chiron and giving us the feeling of that being betrayed in the wilderness, crucified, all of it. But now we're heading into the next transit, which is the sun coming up to Jupiter in Aries. So this is the Easter, this is the resurrection, this is the rebirth on a soul level that's available to us. Aries is the first sign of the zodiac, speaking to rebirth, and Jupiter has a very powerful energy. It expands and grows whatever it's around. So we had last month Jupiter and Chiron come together very powerfully, and then our personal planets all meeting up: Mercury, the Venus, Mercury, and now the sun. So this is our last Aries explosion, and it's the celebration of what's to come. This rebirth of the true self, an expansion, a pulling out, an extraction of who we really are. Because the sun is our identity, and Jupiter, like we said, is expanding. The sun in Aries is our true identity, our I am consciousness, what we are and were before anything else, as energy before form. This is the spark of life. It's creation energy. It's the seed popping out of that seed pod. So very powerful energies. Now that sun conjunct Jupiter is at 22 degrees and Aries, which is a master builder number. And 22 is about building something completely different, a totally new reality. It's like a portal to a whole new reality, which really fits this time that we're living in. There's a very uncomfortable feeling of trepidation as we head into the summer season or winter in the southern hemisphere, of this Pluto in square to the nodes of the moon, this twist of fate, this realignment, and uh, feeling that a lot of changes are coming very quickly. And how do we prepare for this? So this is all brewing. And with this Aries activation of our true self, now the sun was just over Chiron, and we were still feeling that up until um, the 10th here. And that is about the sun, who we think we are, and our woundedness in Aries. Basically, where we've been killed for who we really are, where we've lost our life, where we had to give away our life and our freedom in order to stay alive. So these life or death energies, and it's all about asking us to stand up and choose exactly that life again, really living. So it's like the last couple of months of this Aries energy is culminating here. And this is exact the sun conjunct Jupiter on the 13th. We'll be feeling that from today, the 10th, until through the 17th. And so this whole week of the sun conjunct Jupiter, where we are expanding, having an invitation to pop right out of that shell and expand into who we really are. There's so much inside of SuperNova Souls that hasn't been expressed. And this frustration has been building with this Aries activation, incubating, shaking, activating this seed, this potential inside of us, bringing it to the surface, because the message is that we can't move forward in our evolution or move into the Aquarian age unless supernova souls come into their full expression. Bam. Boom. That's just the only way it is. Nothing can stop it. but it doesn't mean that we know what's going tell what's going on or really all the time feel completely comfortable in this process of awakening and being on the cutting edge with nobody to show us the way. It's definitely an individual journey through the wilderness and facing our deepest fears and crucifying the lower self in order to rise into who we really are. And this is what's available to us. The astrology, the stars is speaking to our very own Christ light body. And we're donning this, this remnant, raiment of remnant of, of, um, of light. And so that's what's really going on. Now, we've had a shift of energy because Mercury now in Taurus has moved into retrograde shadow. And so we had all planets direct and we had that huge Aries activation. And now it's kind of like, all right, whoa, 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 whoa. Mercury and Taurus, let's ground out. What does this all mean? What are we doing here? And Mercury just went over the north node of the moon, and that was that tippy top part of the kite and trying to lead us into a new direction, new clarity. The clarity that's coming has to do with our core values. When shit goes down in our life, like I know SuperNova Souls right now, it's like, whoa, one thing after another. We are forced, we're brought into a place of, well, what really matters here? What are we really doing? What really matters? Now, in this very interesting time, though, you can be directed towards what really matters that you didn't know. You couldn't understand. You couldn't almost, it's like give yourself permission enough to cherish and honor the energetic frequency of what you love because it's always been on the back burner. It's always been at the bottom of the list. It's always for when you get all your other chores done and you be your good human. Then you can go express yourself creatively. We're understanding that what makes us feel alive is where the core values, what really matters in our life. And that could be understanding that all that we've been working for in the material world that we thought was spiritual doesn't have the energy that we're actually want to work with. And this is the deal. It's like, oh, again, you're all starting to get clarity, feeling like it's time to move somewhere as far as moving forward with your projects, your career, your ideas, your life. And then just back in this place of complete unknown. And of course, this is what the universe is asking us to be comfortable in with the year of the water rabbit and exploring this art of war, where where the mechanism of moving through life is to instead of the outward battle so much, it's about consciousness and awareness and the mind and psychology and presence, being aware, uh, using your power of awareness to know when to run, when to retreat, when to hide, and when to charge ahead. So we're really in this energy, and that water trine we've been feeling, this kite has been with Saturn and Pisces. It's bringing a very strange energy because Saturn is our manifest reality and the laws and rules. And Saturn doesn't have, or I mean, Pisces doesn't have any rules. It's just like the primordial oneness consciousness. Now, in the Piscean age, this oneness consciousness, this connectedness between human consciousness, was used to control humanity through religious principles. Now, how can we have a spiritual revival while we're sticking to these bullshit tenets of false religion, a false God, of a punishing God that you have to somehow prove yourself worthy? And a lot of the constructs of all structured religions. So we have to have an overhaul, and we can see this coming. Financial system, every system, total overhaul. Can't put a band-aid on this shit. And it's just like, yeah, and the changes are coming in, they're coming fast. And it's this kind of uneasy feeling in the stomach. And this has to do with Mercury going into retrograde shadow because Mercury just went over the node, north node, and that triggered this beautiful kite. But it's also activating the nodes, and then like kind of precursor energy into Pluto square the nodes, where we have this big kind of um, elephant in the room, uncomfortable thing we need to deal with. And that peaks out in July and August. And that's exactly when we have the Venus retrograde beginning in Leo. So a lot going on this year in our empowerment. Now, that's kind of part of the deal here, because Mercury now in retrograde shadow, it's a shift. It's kind of like, whoa, and it's Taurus. So it's about getting grounded out. It's about embodying. It's about feeling worthy. It's about receiving and taking care of ourselves and understanding the power of embodiment and being grounded and connected to the earth and to ourselves, to our moment, to our center. And so, but Mercury in this retrograde is very interesting because it just went over the North Node. Then Mercury is going to make it just 2 degrees away from Uranus in Taurus, and then retrograde back almost to the nodes again. And then we'll finally, after turning direct, moving out of retrograde shadow, meet back up with Uranus. So it's very dramatic because Mercury and Uranus come 2 degrees apart. And then Mercury turns around and says, oh, no, not ready for this. So the Mercury in Taurus is about our self-worth, and Uranus is higher frequency vibrations. So it's like Uranus, the lower mind. I mean, Mercury, the lower mind, Uranus, the higher mind, about to come to a very important meeting. And then Mercury says, oh, no. So we're looking at in this retrograde what part of us is blocking our evolution and in resistance out of fear, out of feeling like we don't deserve, out not being able to let ourselves feel good and happy. And we've got to clean this up. We know this. And this has been the deal with the nodes in Taurus and Scorpio, and that's coming to an end. The nodes will also, so right around that July, end of July, is when the nodes will switch signs as well, come into that square with Pluto, exact, right at 0 degrees and then 29 degrees, because Pluto will be retrograde and the nodes move backwards. So the exact conjunctions happen at 29 degrees and 28, or square with the nodes of the moon between Pluto, at 29 and 28 degrees of the next nodal signs, which is Aries and Libra, North Node Aries, South Node Libra, in square to Pluto back at the end degrees Capricorn. So we are, this Pluto going back into Capricorn is like, wait a minute, you thought you might be free, but there are chains on you. And the message coming in about this, these subconscious programs, chains, manipulations, we've gone through DNA manipulations, MK Ultra type programs, horrible things that advanced souls have been targeted with in order to keep you from remembering who you are. Now that goes back to this massive Aries explosion. The sun Jupiter is like, bam, you remember who you are. Bam, your Christ body's landing home. You're turning your light on, and there's nothing that can stop. And no time to be scared. You know? So so we're incarnating this new but more real self of who we really are, because we've gotten this message from the beginning in the SuperNova story. I started getting downloads about this SuperNova soul type experience, and that we have a bigger self. We have a more spiritual self that has not been able to fully incarnate and land. This is because of a few reasons. It could be past life trauma where you were persecuted for the light that you are. There's ancestral dynamics that keep us from being able to, and also like has to do with your family not being able to receive you as a spiritual being, the earth, the energies at the time you were born, not being able to receive the full potential of your light and energy. So now we're incarnating. Now we're being born. Now we're figuring out who we really are. So this whole game is dependent on the fact that in all this ways that supernova souls have been targeted are all designed to keep us from knowing who we are, keep us from remembering. And it's weird. We've been totally duped with this. There's a belief system out there that if we can't access the memories, they're not ours. This is really important. All of your memories are your property. And as you claim sovereignty and as you're ready and able, you can receive these memories of who you really are. It might be memories of what's happened to you that finally make sense of why life's been so difficult, what you've been through. You know, we can't just stay asleep and go, they're just hoping that we don't have, that we continue to keep our memories wiped. But everything that's ever happened to you is written in your own Akashic records and in the collective Akashic records, and they're there. They're your memories and your experiences. Even what happened under deep duress or in states that we haven't been able to access. Memories live in our astral body, in our aura. So even if we wipe, our memories have been wiped, they still live in our field. That's why you can get rid of trauma by forgetting about it, but you're going to still live it out because it's living in your field. And so it's very powerful for us to know in this process of claiming our autonomy and our sovereignty, which is absolutely required for us to move into the Aquarian age, that all of our memories are our property. It's kind of like there's no valid claim to your energy. It's yours. We've allowed it to be given away. We have to take it back. We have to take the memories back. This whole game is dependent upon you not having your memory of who you really are. And now, boom, because there's an energy of this twist of fate, this Pluto square the nodes of like this DNA activation, like something instant and life changing, that flash of energy that's like, oh yeah, no, now we can see the truth. We've been seeing more and more, right? It's like the light is exposing the darkness. It's being shown for us to see, but we haven't quite gone full throttle with the light yet, and it's coming. And then what is it going to look like? Nothing can hide. The next phase of our evolution, nothing can hide. You cannot have an internal thought without people being able to know it, because we're moving into an empathic level. As we evolve spiritually in our consciousness, we become more and more empathic. And so we have a completely different world. And it's so messed up right now, how many lies and deceits, and people don't even know they're lying, don't know they're living in lies and deceit. They're so disconnected from who they are. They think they're lying to themselves and they're believing it. And then how do you deal with that as a soul that's been dedicated 100% to transparency and truth? It's a very difficult time to be alive as an advanced soul, and yet so exciting these times that we're living in. But we're really feeling this kind of ominous trigger with Mercury now in Taurus, coming up to a square with Black Moon Lilith in Leo. And this is on the 11th of April, tomorrow, and 10 degrees. And so Mercury in Taurus, square Black Moon Lilith in Leo. And so there's 3 squares, Mercury square Black Moon Lilith. Black Moon Lilith is the deepest, darkest hidden secrets, and about the feminine typically, or the persecution of the feminine, the secrets, the dark twists or distortions of the feminine. So in Leo, we're looking at distortions of the feminine that have been keeping the feminine from shining her light, her knowledge, her wisdom, the divine Sophia, the wisdom of the feminine. This is like all the books of the Bible that were hidden and destroyed, that will be being revealed again, have to do with divine feminine intuitive secrets and studies. So this Mercury coming, we're really feeling this today, and we'll be feeling it through the 15th. And so this whole week we'll be feeling Mercury in square to Black Moon Lilith, and Mercury in a very uncomfortable place, right? Because Mercury's, oh, in Taurus, time to ground out, time to get reoriented, time to figure out what just happened with these Aries activations, and then moving into retrograde shadow. And it's just kind of like, right into this. Well, triggering the kite, let's go, let's fly. But then in retrograde shadow and coming into the square with Black Moon Lilith. So there's 3 squares with Black Moon Lilith during this Mercury retrograde season. The first one here on the 11th. The next one will be April 30th. The third one will be June 1st. And that is the day that Mercury comes out of retrograde shadow. So this is very important because we're talking about this Mercury retrograde being about us deserving the joy, feeling worthy of the blessings that are trying to come. And it's all tied up in with 3 squares to Black Moon Lilith. This concept all tied up into this darkness that's keeping the feminine light from shining. So it's the shame and the shadow and the stories and the persecution and the abuse that's happened to all of us, male or female body, but anyone who came in the energy of the light and of healing and of support for humanity and for life itself, attacked by the energies that want to depopulate. We're starting to understand that there's an evil agenda, and it's an ancient evil agenda, and we're really kicking ourselves right now because we're having bad feelings towards ourselves because we allowed it to go on for so long, and didn't we allow it's like the anger that Yeshua, Jesus, felt when he came to the temple and witnessed the gambling and the trading of goods and like the bazaar type energy that was going on in the temple, and where he braided a whip and started turning the tables over and creating chaos because it was like, enough, no more, not in my Father's house. And this is very symbolic of where we're at now on the planet. We have, if we don't do it soon, we're going to be overcome by this evil. And we know that we already won, and the light always wins. And there's nothing can stop this spiritual evolution. But there's just some very dark feelings coming up in the collective consciousness for humanity as we have to face these really dark truths and bring them into the light, dark to light. But underneath the dark truths is the light, the real story, the greatest story. And that's exactly our story we've been working on this whole time. This whole evolution, we've come in groups working on this amazing and powerful story together. And this is the energy. It's like, well, we got Mercury in shadow, but it's like we're dropping these stories so that we can get on with the story, with the new story. I'm dropping the old stories. And that's, huge trigger with Saturn in Pisces, bringing up a lot of grief. And maybe this is part of this regret and grief over going along with the program and allowing this level of evil in our world. And this feeling of impossible, like, they want you to think that you're the only good person and the only one still awake and conscious, in this way. And it's a very scary feeling, but it's not true because look, we're all here. The supernovas, you can try to go back to sleep, but it's just not going to work, right? We're here. We said yes to this already. This is the difference between supernova souls and your everyday human, is we already said yes to spiritual ascension before we came here. And humans in general having to make a choice of that or not. So very interesting time. And that might be the energy of this twist of fate type. Pluto square the nodes too. Pluto is death and rebirth, transformation. The nodes of the moon is fate. I mean, it feels like it's like end of one timeline, beginning of another one. It's kind of what it feels like. So we'll be paying attention to that energy. Pluto square the nodes, like I said, peaks out in July and August. But we really will start feeling it when they come 3 degrees out of square, and that starts on May 10th. And so May, we're really going to be feeling it. And then starting the end of June, they're 2 degrees apart. And so from the end of June uh, through the end of August, so June, July, and August, we'll just, you know, those. I mean, June has some beautiful magical energies, and it's perfect to move us into this life altering tectonic shift plate energy, twist of fate, whole new direction, whole new world, whole new timeline. It's we're getting set up for this. So everything right now is like precursor to this. Now, um, Venus is finishing up her time in Taurus and she's moving into Gemini. And this is where we're feeling this energy of the all that's been with the Sun Jupiter conjunction and for this whole week. And then we've got Venus moving over into Gemini and this pent up expression where we haven't been able to speak that spiritual truth really, really coming up. And we're realizing that the squelching and the suppression and the attack on our true self could only happen because we didn't speak up for ourselves. And then when we did, we got killed or whatever. And, to make an example so that nobody ever does speak up. And so Venus is ready to say some stuff. And that she moves over into Gemini here in just a couple of days on the 12th, but then comes into a square with Saturn in Pisces. So a mutable square and Venus in Gemini, and she's got some pent up stuff to say. And Saturn in this very strange early degrees of Pisces, trying to figure out, it's like Saturn wants to go back to Aquarius where he has a little bit more bearing. And so this is saying that the voice of the feminine must be heard through the world again. You know, her voice, her song, the song of the mother, the goddess. Uh, we need to hear it through the land in order to build this new world. Now, Venus is also facing the grief over where the intuitive feminine has been so suppressed and silenced. So there's this frustration building. And so that's exact on the 15th. And Sun Jupiter conjunction, this extraction of our true self, this explosion, this all that's inside of us, that, and we've got Venus in a frustrating position with her voice. Those are happening all together. So Sun Jupiter on the 13th, and then on the 15th, Venus square Saturn. So the sun will be moving into Taurus on the 21st of April. And just as the sun moves into Taurus, it will come into a square with Pluto, 0 degrees Aquarius. So this will be our next big square energy, but that's not until the 21st it happens. So that'll be a big shifting energy day, and a lot of that precursor vibration, premonition. Hey, you guys, something big is coming. And this is the energy of it. Let's get prepared, because Sun in square to Pluto is in as moving into Taurus, um, is kind of bringing up that energy of Pluto square the nodes. And so, um, very, very powerful there. And right after Pluto, the sun makes that square with Pluto, then the sun will come into his conjunction with the north node, and the Saturn will still be in a trine to the south node. So we've got this combination of like intense, frustrating squares that are like, I've had enough of this, with this harmonizing effect. Like we're just still feeling Venus at the end degrees of Taurus is coming out of a sextile with Neptune in Pisces. And then now she's going to move into a square with Pisces. And so and we've had that grand water trine kite. We had Mercury in sextile to Mars over the last couple of days. So this beautiful combination of very difficult and frustrating, but activating transits and also harmonizing transits really asking us to take advantage of these times to move into a master builder, who we are as master builders, co-creators of this universe, with the sun and Jupiter coming together at 22 degrees Aries. It's the beginning of a new era, building a new world. And everything is pointing to this. And Saturn in Pisces says it's a world that's got to be based on our true spiritual origins. And that's really all Jesus or Yeshua, that whole story was all, that was all it's all about, is how to get back to God consciousness and the true energy of who we are as spiritual beings. So there's, it's a very powerful time now. We're heading into, we're still kind of coming out of the very powerful Libra full moon. That was when the sun was with Chiron, and that was like the crucifixion energy. Now we're moving into the resurrection. And the next lunation is an eclipse. So we're officially in eclipse season. And the Aries, it's a second Aries new moon. So again, rebirth, rebirth, rebirth. And the Aries, second Aries new moon is a solar eclipse at 29 degrees 50 minutes of Aries. And that happens on Thursday, April 20th. So look out, we're going to have a soul group session, a group intuitive session for that solar eclipse. There will also be a new moon activation as well. So look out for more information about those things as we celebrate these epic transition. We're going to really feel a transition around that time, with the sun moving into that square with Pluto and then into Taurus, and Mercury moving into the retrograde energy. And it's all in Taurus. It's all these last couple of months of the nodes in Taurus and Scorpio. Did you get the message? And it's going deep into where we don't feel worthy of, we're talking about the abundance and who we really are and our light body and all that. But if we don't feel worthy, if we're still subconsciously caught up in these control-based ideas and relationships, that there's something we need to prove, we need to be good enough, we need to do something, accomplish something, this is the ego death experience continues. And a lot of this is saying, you can't take that with you where you go. In the co-creation process, once you start working out of ego, you're off a path. You're back into the weeds. Nothing's working for you anymore. And then we bring ourselves back to center, and we bring ourselves back to thy will, and trust that, bringing our vibration back in alignment with that ultimate ideal timeline again and again and again throughout your day, the vibrational frequency of the world is possible and what you want to see. This is our job right now. This is what we've been asked to do with this water trine and kite. And remember that the Saturn trine the South Node goes all the way till the 25th of April, but we'll feel it all the way into May. So the path ahead is being harmonized to change time in our relationship to time, and to build a world based on the spiritual truth of who we are. Of course, that means we have to let go of all those old stories and the grief of the past. And a lot of what's coming up right now is like, oh, you thought you were still stuck in contracts. You thought you had some processing to do. And the only processing that hasn't been completed is grief, which doesn't ever really get completed. But we're being asked to step into an active grief process. Maybe this is part of forgiving ourselves and letting go of the old stories, forgiving ourselves for allowing this dark force of evil to take such a hold on our planet while we were enamored with our technological devices, you know. So, but we're going to have to be facing all this, and we're doing it together. And it's the great awakening. Humanity is waking up, and it's a spiritual revival, and you're here to lead the way through this ascension experience, SuperNova Soul. Thank God you're here. And thank you so much for going through all you've gone through. Thank you for your support. It means so much to me. If you're interested in being a member, $10 a month gets you Friday video update and lots of resources for Supernova Soul's monthly Q&As. And for $20 a month, you can get access to the new and full moon activations and live sharing circles. So consider the membership group if you would like to find a way to support the movement, be a part of the movement, bring your offering to the movement. Thank you so much, though, for being here and just being you. Keep breathing, keep loving, and keep coming back to this way, this center way, this presence, this ultimate ideal. And we need to be there unwaveringly with full determination. And that's how we can find our way back to each other, where we can amplify and grow this vibrational frequency and cities of light and connecting them together. So I hope that you have a wonderful week and take full advantage of these very dynamic and interesting times that we're in. Come back to full presence when something isn't working in your life. Remember that it's a co-creation process and everything's shifting so fast. And it's almost like we're melding and melting different layers of experience and time. And so the key seems to be not to be too attached to timing or how it's happening, and just be with what is so that you can work from that place. And as you take your steps in alignment with thy will, alignment with source and creation, and with your highest ideal, then the universe can meet you there and get behind you 100% now that you're fully in the game and have fully released everywhere you are loyal to the lower energies. That's what this time is about, and we're doing it, and it's amazing. Not easy. Hang in there and know that you're not alone. We're all going through it together, and we'll meet you outside on the other side of the wilderness. So thank you so much for your support, Supernova. It means so much to me to be here with you, and thank you for all you've gone through to be here with us right now. I look forward to seeing you soon and on the next update. Until then, I'm Adrienne Elise. Namaste.